how do you communicate the value of your BC program to all levels of an organization, be that tools, reporting, etc.? So Regina, if I can have your thoughts on that first, please.
Sure, happy to. What I encourage people to think about when they're thinking about their business continuity program, so whether you're the overall program director or you're just part of the business continuity process down at the departmental level, think of business continuity as a product that needs to actually be marketed and actually marketed strategically within an organization. We are a cost item on a budget spreadsheet. And people often, when times are tough, will be running their fingers down that spreadsheet, looking at what is costing the company money, and is there a way that they can actually minimize that cost. I've seen this increasingly, especially since the financial meltdown of the 2008-9 period. So how do you prove, how do you demonstrate, how do you show that what you're doing really has value on a regular basis? Well, just think of it like a product. I would ask all of our listeners to really think about what's the marketing approach for your particular program. What are you doing to continue to talk about the importance of it? And there's really two ways of looking at this. I often tell my clients that they have to think about it from two perspectives. One is what I call the overt marketing efforts, and the other is what is more covert. I don't mean that in a negative way, but it's more under the radar, so to speak. So what would be an example of an overt effort? So, for example, in many countries around the world, there are certain months that are designated for awareness. So in the United States, for example, in the state of California, which is where I hail from, April is Earthquake Month. And so there's a great opportunity that happens in the media every month in April where there's lots of discussion about what you would do to actually survive an earthquake. There's also another month for fire. There's another month for overall preparedness. And so there's things like that that you can frankly hook your program to, and you can use it to increase awareness not just for your program, but also for family preparedness. So, as we all know as continuity planners, if families aren't prepared, your folks aren't coming to work. So, use that as kind of an example. So those are examples of overt marketing. You're basically loudly proclaiming value. You're loudly talking about how you can help not only the business, but people's families, and you're tying it to things that mean something to folks, right? So it's really logical. So what's an example of covert marketing? Well, I use this actually a lot, and I use it, and I encourage my clients to use it all the time. The idea is that when things come up in the news, for example, we've been doing a huge amount of work recently in the cyber breach world as far as designing exercises for cyber breach events. And every time there's a breach that comes out, I actually, that I see it as either something similar to what one of our clients does, I always send them a quick email with the link to the story in case they had not seen it, because maybe it's in a similar industry. It's a way of kind of keeping business leaders and executives aware of what's going on in our industry. They may not have seen that story, or they may not have connected it directly to them. But you can inform people, and by doing that, you're also providing value. You're telling them, wow, I'm looking out for these particular issues, and wow, this is kind of similar to us. Also doing analysis of contemporary events that are going on, and imagining what would happen if it was you that happened to. So one of the things that we utilize a lot, and I encourage our clients to utilize, is Google Alerts. And I'm sure, of course, everyone knows about Google, but the question is, do you know about Google Alerts? It's a free part of Google where you can actually just Google Alerts, and you can actually drop in a whole series of topics that you would like Google to send you a daily email about. So for us, gosh, we have a ton of things. We have earthquakes and volcanoes and shooters at work, and things like cyber breaches and so on and so on. I probably have 30 or so Google Alerts, and every morning, Mama Google sends me an email, and it gives me a list of things that I'm interested in. And I can look through those pretty quickly, and I can say, wow, that's really interesting. I'm going to send that link to this particular business leader. And it's a way that I can, again, continue to show that programs and what we're doing has value on a regular basis. So that's kind of an example of awareness building from to business leaders or other individuals within your organization to continue to market how important you are. So when you talk about marketing and communication and talking about business continuity plans, just think about looking at this as a product, and you are trying to sell its value throughout the organization at all of the levels that there is.
Thank you, Regina. And Matt, what are your thoughts on this topic, please?
Yeah, and I think to add to Regina there, I mean, it goes back to also some of the different use cases and communicating, and when you have different tools at your disposal, you think about the different software that you use, think about the different reporting and analytics tools that you have, and as you look at the other use cases around your organization, think of how those could potentially be utilized around with other departments and your colleagues. So if you have certain aspects to certain tools or have access to certain tools that could be utilized, make that aware of everybody else. And then as you start to leverage those tools in other places, the value kind of builds itself, because now you're starting to be utilized across the board. You're starting to be utilized for different things. So if you think about notification tools and utilizing them for HR policy updates, or when you have an outage of some kind, or one of the examples I remember is, we had a lot of clients in Virginia. There was an earthquake that happened, which, if any of you guys know, is very rare in Virginia. So what happens? 911 centers are lit up. Help desks are lit up. People start calling all their family members because everybody's wondering. The simple question was that an earthquake? What do I do during that? So they don't have the type of awareness that we have out here on the West Coast of California. But being able to leverage the different tools that you have to send out messages or to leverage the analytics and the reporting to make sure that people are aware of these different things that are occurring really minimizes the outages or the issues that you may have or the disruptions you may have in your daily, in the daily progress of your organization. So having those types of things and those use cases across the board and getting them into other parts really builds that value in the VC program and, really helps you communicate it as you're utilizing it for all those different things. So it's kind of a natural buildup as people start to leverage the tools that you've either purchased or that you manage. So it naturally builds that value.
Great perspective there. And David, can I get you to weigh in, please?
Well, Andrew, I was thinking about external communication there, and it just struck me that all these companies spend a huge amount of money on promoting the brand, and actually here's an opportunity maybe, because companies who we partner with and companies who are in the supply chain with us are given comfort and are given reassurance by our resilience. And just a practical way of doing that, which I found, is to be able to communicate not just the fact that we have plans and we do planning, but to be able to share elements of our business continuity planning output. I know obviously a lot of it is going to be very sensitive and commercially sensitive, but opportunities where I've been able to share with partners the outputs of our planning have been valuable, because on the one hand it's enhanced our reputation, it's enhanced the perception that we hold, and also it's sometimes encouraged other people to do the same thing, to partner with us. So that's just a specific example.
Hey, that's great. That's a great example. So does anyone have any sort of closing thoughts on this one around communicating the effectiveness inside your organization? Would anyone else like to weigh in?
Yeah, Andrew, I might chime in once more, because I heard it a little bit from David and a little bit from Regina as well. Is even the family aspect of things is how do we communicate that level of program that you're helping your organization and helping your family members as well. So I know around the world the perspective on different things is different on how you communicate, or what is our BC program going to be like if I need to communicate with my staff, and a lot of people don't necessarily, depending where you are in the country, don't necessarily like that, or may look at it as being, okay, well, now you're monitoring my activities, you're monitoring my different things, when it really should be looked at as, our BC program is to keep, our assets and, our people safe, and help us respond to the IT incidences and those types of things as well. But if I look at it as, and really push that around my organization as, we are going to help keep you and your family safe, that's something that's really key. And that really gets the buy-in and communicates the value from everybody. And as David mentioned, the brand recognition as well. You look at it as an organization that keeps people safe. So we've got clients that actually utilize the system, during crisis events to actually notify people out there and ask them if they or if themselves or even their family has been affected, and do they need any of our resources? Do they need human resources? Do they need any type of help from our organization? So those are the types of things that can increase both the awareness, from increasing the level of family that's involved as well as family safety, and then really increasing that brand awareness as well as being a tool or being an organization that really supports me and my family and make sure everybody's safe and accountable.
Yeah, some really great points there from Matt. Would anyone else like to weigh in?
Yeah, if I could build on what Matt just talked about. When you look at the concept of an emergency notification system, just as Matt was saying, sometimes employees might look at that as encroachment on their personal life, trying to have a call system that actually has maybe their personal mobile device on it or their home phone. But that really is a marketing issue, as we were just talking about earlier about marketing this program. It's the same as marketing an ENS. Emergency notification systems, by their very nature, are so important these days. And when they first came out, they were thought to be kind of nice to have, but in reality, they're really critically important. And a great example is how you can reach employees and find out if they have needs or concerns. Can they come to work? Do they have a particular need? But sometimes people view it as being an invasion of their privacy. So I think this goes back to another marketing issue. How do you convince your employees? How do you market to them that actually having their information in an emergency notification system is going to be helpful to them for many, many reasons? And so it's another example, again, of providing value to your employees and their families, but also the importance of how you can market what we do on a daily basis that, again, shows value every single day.
Yeah, agreed 100%.
Yeah, that's a great point, Regina, and I can certainly tell you, coming from the other side of the pond, we have some very, very robust data privacy laws, which means that it can be very difficult to use those kinds of tools. So we have to be very, very clear in the way that we communicate around them. And often going in with the safety aspect is actually the path of least resistance, because people do genuinely, generally feel good about their organization looking after them. Not every time, but generally speaking. So that's a really, really great takeaway there.